And today is Monday, May 16th. I hope you guys are doing well. Many articles to get into, a lot of good information. And as the show title states, fuel shortages, crop shortages, and closed ports, and what that means for the rest of us. Now, first, we're going to dive into a lot of record lows. And so volcanic weather, and then that's going to slide into the news and information with the articles right now. Now, this from Electroverse. It says here that Puerto Rico's coldest April since 1991. They had their record lows. Italy, the average temperature was low, almost a half degree Celsius. Record cold across Spain last month. A total of 14 monthly low temperatures. Records were set. 8 for the lowest minimum and 6 for the lowest max. New Zealand dips below freezing after what has been a warm few months in the land of the long white cloud. New Zealand is finally enduring its first wintry cold spell. And then that's going to lead into the next story when it comes to crop issues and shortages and what to expect in the coming months. Is that Spain is expected to produce the lowest volume of fruit in 40 years. It says here in the article that Spain is expected to produce its lowest volume of fruit in the last 40 years, and due to frost that hit its fruit production region in early April, especially in the Ebro Valley, one of Europe's most important producing areas of sweet fruit. Now it goes on in here, says the expectations are the priority will be given to those large buyers who don't have a problem with the price increases, which would be 35 to 45% expected, much to the detriment of the speculative destinations that are only interested in the prices. According to some producers, there will be a lower impact on apples and pears, so there's some good news there, as the frost didn't affect much of that crop as the farmers did apply treatment. But unfortunately, these figures do not take into account the major damage to the apricots caused by a severe hailstorm that hit much of the region. And in here it says, quote, practically 100% of the crop has been destroyed, affecting millions of kilos of fruit. From the Agricultural Union, UPA. So there's that. So we got apples, apricots, and cherries being impacted. And that's from Spain. And also, I did read an article. I emailed it to myself, and when I clicked on it, I wanted to be a dead link. But it said that Florida is having some of its lowest citrus volume in probably the last 70 years. So there's something else to consider here in America. Now back to Electroverse and over into South and North America's weather. Cold forecast dashes the U.S. crop planting hopes. Likewise, in the U.S. and much of Canada, the onset of the May cold looks to dash any remaining hopes of even an average grain harvest, let alone a bountiful one. So in here, it gives a lot of good maps and graphs. And it says here that soybeans are also in trouble. 12% have been planted compared to the 5-year average of 24%. So that's been slashed in half. Spring wheat planted is at 27% compared with the average of 47%, while just 9% emerged compared to the norm of 15%. More concerning, though, is the winter wheat condition, which was rated 29% good to excellent, 39% poor and very poor. And not forgetting the oats, the planted area was reported at 55% versus a 5-year average of 71%. And like I said before, it's not just us with our human consumption of grains and cereals, it's also the food production for feed for animals across the board. And also interesting in the article here is the return of La Nina. And in here it says the Earth's climate system is also throwing some of us a curveball with a third consecutive La Nina. Now, this is going to be interesting coming into this winter when a lot of it's going to be speculated that's going to be very cold, colder than normal and average, and drier in some locations where they really do rely on that snowpack for rain and water. So in here, when it comes to volcanic updates, there are an uptick in activity, and the biggest one I saw was Iceland's Reykjavik's volcano. Alert level was raised as magma is on the move, and that is due to the two plates pulling apart from one another. When that happens, you get what happened last year with a lot of fissures erupting and pushing out a lot of magma. So that's something else to keep in mind when it comes to that activity. Now, this next article was a fun find. This was someone who took the time to put together a lot of the food manufacturing and grain manufacturing issues that has been happening since, say, 2019 to now. And this guy from 4plebs.org started cataloging and archiving every single instance of major fire or incident or explosion at these good-sized food manufacturing plants, food processing plants, and large farms, grain, cereal processing, all that good stuff. From January 1st to 2019 to now. And let's see here. Okay. It says they have now finished the incidents for 19, 20, and 21, and continuing for this year. And let's see if this is working. Let's take a quick look on DLive. Now, in the article here from 4plebs.org, 2019 there were 10 incidents. 2020 there were 26 incidents. 2021 there were 33 incidents. And so far this year, there have been 61 incidents in just the first 4 months. And on top of that, Romanian port races against the clock to move Ukrainian grain to global markets as Russian troops are looking to take over flagship Black Sea port, Constanta. So as of right now, they are scrambling to move whatever they can through that last port because it looks to be a choke point. And if that goes, so goes any chances of moving any future grains and crops through that port. So like we said before, there's a lot of port closures and issues going on and continuing. Just got a tornado warning. That's interesting. Okay, so moving on. Here in America, we talked about Iowa destroying over 5 million chickens. We also discussed other states doing the same thing. As of late, there were over 8 million birds destroyed, including ducks and geese. And as of right now, another 1.36 million chickens being euthanized to prevent spread of bird flu, Colorado officials say. In Will County, Colorado, a commercial egg facility in Colorado has started euthanizing its 1.36 million chickens after bird flu was detected, according to the state's Department of Agriculture. High pathogenic avian influenza was confirmed among the flock in the egg-producing facility on April 29th, and euthanizing the birds began on May 1st. The CDA noted that the bird flu does not pose a food safety risk and that the poultry and eggs are safe to eat as long as they are handled and cooked properly. So you got that going right there. Funny and interesting international news coming from Sri Lanka. Food riots in Sri Lanka turned deadly as protesters beat up police and burned down politicians' homes. So we've talked about many times the world food prices going up across the board. Every sector and category is going up. And in Sri Lanka, not only are they going through their own paper shortage, when we talked about this a few weeks ago, where students couldn't finish and complete final exams because of no paper. And now they are protesting the streets, continuing to do so, not only with food, but paper and other political upheaval and issues with their politicians not giving them any answers or suggestions as to how to deal with these shortages. And then continue on with the food and crop shortages and ports. This article from Zero Hedge, major trucking firms prepare for, quote, imminent diesel shortage in eastern half of the U.S. Major trucking fleets across the eastern half of the U.S. are preparing for an imminent diesel shortage, according to logistics from FreightWaves and Loves. Major truck stop chains, Loves, and Pilot are warning imminent diesel shortages in the eastern half of the U.S., and this was posted on a Twitter post May 11th. Now, in one of these messages that a lot of truckers received, it says, Northeast may run low on fuel within next week or two, that stations in the entire region could go to allocations, and pockets of the Northeast may be completely out of fuel. Problem is oil being diverted, not imported, between here and Europe due to U.S. committing to feed Europe with fuel so it can wean off of Russian fuel. This will affect gas and diesel. The Southeast will likely be fine due to the pipeline, but the diversion is mostly happening to fuel typically bound for Northeast states. Could last through the summer unless the U.S. pulls back from supporting fuel needs in Europe. So we're swimming in it. We're swimming in lots of oil. And the fact that this administration got rid of 2 leasing options in the Gulf and 1 in Alaska, I don't know what's going to happen from here on out, especially tapping into our reserves. This can go either way. So if you can gain a little extra gas safely, store it with some fuel stabilizer, and then rotate it, there's some good information. Do your own fact finding and see what works best for you, especially before the summer months do hit. Now, we talked about and continue to talk about the ports closures and issues and political impacts. Chinese factory output fell. This was in a financial article. Fell the most in 32 years. April was the second monthly contraction for the IP since 1990. Now, food for thought. We talked about this earlier on, was that every week the ports are closed, it takes 6 weeks to catch up. So if you do the math and go back how long they've been closed, and they just now slowly started opening up activity, but it's going to be many months to deal with this. Now, when it comes to timing and things that are interesting, Bill Gates, and I saw this in an article, I wanted to read this. Bill Gates is amazing. He launches artificial breast milk right as their formula shortage hits America. He is the largest investor in vaccines during a pandemic, and he is the largest owner of farmland in America, and there's a food crisis. Now, there was an article I wanted to add to this information. On May 3rd, Bill Gates said, "We didn't understand that it's a fairly low mortality rate and that it's a disease mainly in the elderly, kind of like flu, although a bit different than that." Weird. Could have swore that we did understand this back when it was dangerous misinformation. But with all this information right here we discuss and all the articles digging through this stuff and writing the notes, the crop shortages, Florida having the lowest citrus output in 70 plus years, Spain in 40 plus years, you have droughts, Australia continuing with the rain situation right now. They're still getting pelted with a lot of rain. North America, South America with the droughts and cold weather, prolonging the chances of putting anything in the ground and plant to then harvest. And then whatever is being planted right now is being heavily impacted by the cold weather and combination of the drought. And then you have the chicken situation. Another 1.36 million chickens being destroyed. And then you have the list of plants being destroyed. And we talked about this, the last one, just this year alone in the first 4 months, 61 manufacturing facilities, plant facilities, 61 have been destroyed. And it's only been 4 months into the year. So many times we've talked about the importance of putting food away, supplies away. And with the ports closures slowly opening, but even then with them being opening up, you have all of those ships sitting off the coast, just sitting there, wasting fuel, not doing anything, not moving anything, cargo containers, supplies. So you have baby formula issues. You have stories of people placing orders, and then I think delivery dates are anywhere from May 30th to June 10th for formula. And that's if they're able to fulfill that order. So run your dehydrators, get your freeze-dried foods while you can. Stock up on your supplies. Think about the things that are in your home right now or came from, most likely China. Think about the things you do on a daily basis. We've said this many, many times. From the time you get up to all your daily activities, the things that you do, the cooking, the errands, all that stuff. Keeping your gas tanks full. If it falls below half, we're practicing when it gets to about half or just below half, fill them up again. Keep those full, because again, between prices and availability, at least you have some time to do something with whatever fuel you do have in your tanks. So with all that being said, YouTube, you guys be safe and well. I'll talk to you all next week. And then we're going to stick with DLive.